Entonces, so how exactly do you como separar los acentos? And I guess, yeah, how do you separate accents? How do you separate languages in general? That sounds incredibly difficult because for me, I get mixed up all the time just with English and Spanish, and then now English, Spanish, and French. I can only imagine like what you're going through.
Yes, I do confuse them a lot. And I think for me personally, which won't really apply for everyone, I was a theater kid growing up and I was like really into improv and like coming up with like personalities and things like that. So when I speak other languages, I change my voice and, naturally, it's actually like a natural thing, social linguistically. Um, where you kind of change your personality changes when you're speaking different languages. So the faster that you can get yourself to embrace that personality change, and embrace the fact that your voice is going to change between languages and things like that, it'll be a lot easier to like distinguish them. Especially for me when I'm speaking in one language and I see, like, especially if I see like another word in another language in the middle of like me speaking this language, it makes my voice change. And that's when I realize we've gone the wrong direction. So if I'm in conversation and I'm thinking or something, and I feel that voice change and I go, that's the wrong language. But it is very difficult, especially when you have languages that have similarities and things like that. Sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it's difficult. And you guys will see on my channel when I did my polyglot interview with my brother, where there was times where one of us couldn't remember a word in a language. And it's like, well, how do you say it in French? It's like that. And it's like, okay, well, that doesn't help actually. Oh, wait, but if you could say it in Spanish, then that is similar to the word we're looking for here. And you can kind of like connect those dots. But then there's also like times where when I was dabbling in Italian, but I was learning Portuguese and I already speak Spanish and French. And, you get to like the word agua in Spanish and trying to remember now, like, okay, wait, so like, how do you spell it and pronounce it in Italian versus Portuguese versus Spanish? Like, which one is which? You kind of forget how it separates and how they differ, like which, like I said, like which spelling is which. I do the same thing even with English words now, where if there's like a cognate in Spanish or French or German, sometimes I'll get it wrong. Like I went to write actress one time and I wrote the French word actrice. And I was, someone corrected me. They were like, hey, you spelled actress wrong, right? I was like, I did? And I looked at it and I was like, it looks right. So it will, like, language learning will take a toll on your language abilities. You'll see, like, all of a sudden you start doubting yourself a lot when it comes to spelling. My parents laugh at me because I doubt myself a lot when it comes to pronouncing English words, just because like sometimes I'll look at them and I'm like, okay, how would we pronounce this the English way? Because like it's feeling French, like it feels like I should be pronouncing this the French way. But like I said, the second my voice changes, I realize that wasn't the way to go. I've gone the wrong direction.
Okay. Oh, that's an interesting method to stop yourself from mixing up language as well. I haven't heard that before. Okay. How difficult has it been to separate Spanish from Portuguese? Because I've heard they are fairly similar.
They're so similar. And, I found myself either having moments where I'm pronouncing Portuguese words the Spanish way or vice versa. Where, like just because there's so many words where they're so very similar. They're so similar. Or, there's patterns that happen that are very very similar. Let's say similar. But yeah, like so for instance, when in Spanish we have the verb aprender. And then ¿cómo se dice en Portugués? I forget exactly how to pronounce it in Portuguese, but it's been a minute. But it's like aprender. And when you have like aprendiendo in español, tenemos aprendendo in Portuguese. And then you have, when you have like the verb tener, like to have in Spanish, and you go over to the verb to have in Portuguese. So you're going to have like yo tengo, eu tenho. And you have nosotros tenemos, nos temos. So like they're so similar. So it helped a lot for me when I was like first learning, especially with conjugating verbs. I was like very quick on it. Like, okay, wait, I can conjugate this verb because it's kind of like the Spanish, but it's not. Gotta remember that, you know? So yeah, I do get them confused. There's a lot of times where I like will catch myself pronouncing something wrong or spelling something wrong, or, you know, just like using the wrong word. You know, there's been a lot of times where I was like speaking Spanish with someone and like I'll say falar instead of hablar. And it's just because like the conversation was flowing and it just felt like the Portuguese in it just felt really similar. And part of that is because I have not developed my like I haven't figured out my Portuguese voice yet. Just because since it's so similar to Spanish and French, I have this weird like I want it to be closer to my French voice because of the nasal vowels involved, but then it just looks so much like Spanish that like my Spanish voice tries to take over. So it becomes this weird mix. And everyone that I have talked to that I've spoken Portuguese with, they told me that I sound like a Spanish native speaker trying to speak Portuguese. And I don't know how to take that. I was like, okay.
That's a win.
I don't hate it. Yeah, I was like, I don't hate it.